that Data is this high-powered machine. Then he removes Data's forearm to show it to the judge. And of course, Riker feels terrible because he tells Data that he's sorry. And he like removes the arm, shows it to the judge. And then he does his big, showstopper that we talked about before, where he's like, a man made this machine and now a man will turn it off. And he like flips the switch and Data's like, and he just, powers off. And then Riker comes in.
I just love that he just,
Yeah. I always like to include sound effects of how I think it might have sounded if I was there. And then Riker coming in hot with this line of, Pinocchio is broken. Its strings have been cut. What the hell, Riker? Calm down. Like, we get it. You're doing your job, but relax. Like, and then this is the scene.
He's got to be over dramatic.
Oh, he has to be because he's Riker, and he sits down and he.
How else is he gonna get the ladies?
Exactly. Yeah, but this is the scene we were talking about earlier, where he basically sits down, looks like he's about to throw up. And Maddox is like, yes, my plan is working. Like, it's pretty terrible.
But you get earlier when he says he's going to remove his arm, and Picard objects, and then instantly says it doesn't matter and sits down. I mean, he's totally dejected, like this is an unwinnable case, which is very unusual to see Picard like that.
And even after, like, once Riker, like, does his thing where he turns Data off, Picard's like, I request a recess. Like, and we all need a break. Like, that was, like, it was upsetting. And even the judge, like, she's very, like, yeah, let's take a break, everybody. And
so in the script, she actually says, hey, it's lunchtime. No, I'm joking.
Oh, look at that, it's lunchtime. So... After that devastating day in court, Picard is up in the Enterprise. He's in 10 forward, having a drink with Guinan, and he's basically like, he almost convinced me. Like, that was a powerful argument. And this is like, basically, this conversation is like Picard's aha moment, where Guinan helps him understand what's really happening here. And this is when she basically helps him along to understand that the goal of basically mass producing datas is so that we can have disposable people. And even when Picard, when he connects the dots and he says, that's slavery, and she says, she's like, that's kind of harsh. And in that, like, sort of funny way of hers of being like, it's not harsh. It's the truth. And he, of course, Picard's like, no, it's the truth. That's exactly what this is about. We've been dancing around the issue, but this is about slavery. And this is basically like the linchpin now that kind of just sets Picard off to just go back into that courtroom with like renewed zeal and really win this case.
So a couple. Can I add a couple things I want to add?
Course,
so in the script, when I talked about, remember they were a couple. In the script at the beginning of his conversation, when he's talking to Guinan about the Stargazer court-martial, saying that's what ended us. So that's where the relationship was more was more in depth in the script, and and like I said, like I think I told you before, it was really not as heavy hitting as this one was here, because as many times as I've seen this episode, when it gets to you're talking about slavery, I usually get chills on it, because just thinking when they talk about disposable people, and obviously this episode is talking about just creating an army of these, and just like we said before, throwing them into every scenario, just being lazy. Throw them down there, and of just you picture androids just destroyed and scattered and mauled or whatever, and when he says, we have obscured this behind a comfortable euphemism, property, which is what slavery was about. I mean, in our history, is that they were property, in the South. So, it's such a good scene, and Patrick Stewart this is just like a masterclass.
Oh, 100%. And then the very next scene that we get arguably it's the best scene in the entire show, where in the entire episode, where they all come back to the courtroom. The prosecution has presented their case. Now it's up to the defense. And I really love when Picard basically dismisses all of Riker's points that he just made, and he's like, irrelevant. That's relevant. That's not important.
But it's also his just manner. Data is a machine. Humans are machines. We're just a different composition. Data was created by humans. We are the building blocks of our parents' DNA. Like, so matter of fact. Like that's not a big deal. It's
Right.
not a big deal.
I love how he says, data is a machine. Do we deny that? No.
Exactly.
Data was created by humans. Do we deny that? No, it is irrelevant. Like, he's so like, ho hum, all of your arguing meant nothing because it's totally irrelevant to this case. And so I love the argument presented that humans are a machine as well, just different kind, as you said, and humans create children based on their own DNA. So I was created by a human too, and we all were pretty much. So unless one of you guys is Skynet, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brooke was like,
I'm
"Who
only
told
human,
you?"
so I knock things over. Sorry.
But yeah,
but well, I mean, and even Data, if you think about it, because he is basically, I mean, he doesn't have like the DNA of Dr. Sung, but he is basically like in his image, because Brent Spiner plays both of them,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we finally do meet Dr. Sung later on in the series, I mean, it's Brent Spiner in old guy makeup, and it's how egotistical for Dr. Sung to make an android in his own image. Like, it looks just like him, pretty much. So, yeah. So now, Data is called to the stand, this time by Captain Picard, and he basically goes through like the contents of Data's space luggage, and he's like, "Why do you pack your medals? There's no logical purpose." And Data's like, "I just wanted them." And I love when he's like, "Is that vanity? Like, am I vain? Like, I don't know." He asks him, "Why do you have this book?" And he says, "Well, you gave it to me. It's a reminder of friendship and service."
And a mentality.
Yes, absolutely. So it's like a machine is not going to think about those things. A true machine that doesn't think or feel is not going to have an ego and be vain and say, "I want to display my medals. I want to show what I've done." But Data does. Data wants his medals because they're an achievement, right? As any person would want to have. And then he, of course, brings out the little holograph image of Tasha, and he's like, "You don't have any other portraits of your crewmates. Why this one?" And I do love how Data tries to keep his promise to Tasha, because in the episode that it happened, she said to him, "This never happened. Don't talk about it ever." And he was like, "Okay, like, I promise." And he was going to keep that promise, that he was not going to say what happened. And Picard was like, "I don't think Tasha would mind." And so he says, "We were intimate." And
he might as well have been like, "She was dead, just spill the beans, buddy."
Yeah. Well, I love how, like, Philippa, like, sits up like, "What?" And then Riker's like, "Hey, you hit it, buddy. I can't. I mean, Riker, who, is Riker, is like, that's my guy, so.
Riker's like, "I taught him a few things, didn't I?"
Yeah. And I think it says a lot about Data the fact that he even kept an image of her. Like she, what machine would do that? You know,
he has a computer for a brain. He won't lose that memory.
No, he has every single second of his life preserved in his brain perfectly, but he still keeps an image of her so he can see her. Like, that is a human thing to do. That is not a machine thing to do.
The enterprise computer is a machine. He's got a positronic brain. He is always learning, thinking, growing. May not show emotion, but he is learning to what it is to become human. And that's what more do you need to know?
Yeah. No, it's so true because the enterprise computer does not think and reason the way that Data does. Data is artificial intelligence. He's able to acquire knowledge and then put it into practice. Whereas,
and he's able to use critical thinking, whereas the computer will just bring up statistics.
Exactly.
And it's basically like a Google search.
Exactly. Yeah. If you
without any, kind of algorithms to bring up other things you might be thinking about or whatever.
No, you're absolutely right. That's a great example. Like, you could type into Google a search for, I don't know, you could ask Google anything and it'll just give you facts. It'll just give you places to get this information from. But Google will not be able to tell, hey, I think what you really mean is you want this thing because it seems like you're upset about this other thing. Like, but someone who has critical thinking can do that. They can reason and then pull up other information. But a computer can't. My laptop, the fact that I can use it to watch Netflix, I can call you guys on Skype and I can record this call, it doesn't mean that my laptop is going to remember me if I die tomorrow. It's not.
Right.
Someone else will use it and it won't know the difference because it's a machine.
Yeah. Like my cell phone might have my fingerprint, in it. But whatever, sometimes whenever you do your updates on things, it'll go away because it doesn't have an actual, like, real memory like Data does.
Exactly. So after this testimony, now we've got Maddox on the stand. Picard calls him as a hostile witness. And he's basically like, okay, you're here saying that Data's not sentient, right? And he's like, he's not sentient. And he's like, okay, so what's the criteria for sentience? And he says you have to be intelligent, self-aware, and have consciousness. And Picard, like, takes him through this step-by-step of, like, prove to the court that I'm sentient. Why am I sentient but Data not? And they go over the qualifications. And Data meets the first two of being intelligent and being self-aware. This is when Maddox, like, starts to squirm in his seat. Like, he's like, uh-oh. Like, this
Squirming like the worm that he is.
Yes, exactly. And then Picard starts pressing on him, like, how many Datas are you going to make? And this is when Maddox is like, oh, as many as are necessary. Thousands even. And of course here comes, Picard's main argument. If you create thousands of Datas, you've created a race. And how we treat this race will reflect on who we are as a people, as this federation. And then you get, like, all of this amazing, like, Shakespearean acting going on because Picard is like, the court is a crucible. We burn away in what does he say? We burn away irrelevancies.
Irrelevancies, yeah.
Until left with a pure product, the truth, for all time. And I love the line where he says, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. I mean, that just gives you chills, right? Like, Picard is basically telling the court, this is the definition of our purpose as Starfleet. We're supposed to seek out new life. It's sitting right there. And you're going to tell me it's nothing more than a toaster? That's impossible. And and then, of course, Philippa has to render her verdict. And I really like her little even speech about saying that